You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed. I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood and birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are unnatural. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears. When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside and see what sort of people they are. You will realize that there is no need to be racked with anxiety that they should hold any particular opinion about you. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. What doesn't transmit light creates its own darkness. Here is a rule to remember in future when anything tempts you to feel bitter. Not, this is misfortune, but, to bear this worthily is good fortune. Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look. How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy. You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. There were some universal pieces of wisdom and meditations that should always be top of mind, or even read to yourself each morning. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind. and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions. Like seeing roasted meat and other dishes in front of you and suddenly realizing, this is a dead fish, a dead bird, a dead pig, or that this noble vintage is grape juice, and the purple robes are sheep wool dyed with shellfish blood. Or making love, something rubbing against your penis, a brief seizure and a little cloudy liquid. Perceptions like that, latching onto things and piercing through them so we see what they really are. That's what we need to do all the time, all through our lives when things lay claim to our trust. When a slave runs away from his master, we call him a fugitive slave. But the law of nature is a master too, and to break it is to become a fugitive. To feel grief, anger, or fear is to try to escape from something decreed by the ruler of all things, now or in the past or in the future. And that ruler is law, which governs what happens to each of us. To feel grief or anger or fear is to become a fugitive from justice. Epithets for yourself: upright, modest, straightforward, sane, cooperative, disinterested. Try not to exchange them for others. And if you should forfeit them, set about getting them back. Keep in mind that sanity means understanding things, each individual thing for what they are, and not losing the thread. And cooperation means accepting what nature assigns you. Accept it willingly. And disinterest means that the intelligence should rise above the movements of the flesh, the rough and smooth alike, should rise above fame, above death, and everything like them. If you maintain your claim to these epithets, without caring if others apply them to you or not, you'll become a new person, living a new life. To keep on being the person that you've been, to keep being mauled and degraded by the life you're living, is to be devoid of sense and much too fond of life. Treat what you don't have as non-existent. Look at what you have, the things you value most, and think of how much you'd crave them if you didn't have them. But be careful. Don't feel such satisfaction that you start to overvalue them, that it would upset you to lose them. It's a good exercise to think, or write in your journal, about what you have as a reminder that you have them. This helps suppress desire and increase gratitude for the fortune you have in life. Remember that our own worth is measured by what we devote our energy to. What is it in ourselves that we should prize? Not just transpiration, even plants do that. Or respiration, even beasts and wild animals breathe. Or being struck by passing thoughts. Or jerked like a puppet by your own impulses. Or moving in herds. Or eating and relieving yourself afterwards. Then what is to be prized? An audience clapping? No. No more than the clacking of their tongues, which is all that public praise amounts to. A clacking of tongues. So we throw out other people's recognition. What's left for us to prize? I think it's this: to do and not do what we were designed for. That's the goal of all trades, all arts, and what each of them aims at. That the thing they create should do what it was designed to do. The nurseryman who cares for the vines, the horse trainer, the dog breeder, this is what they aim at. And teaching and education, what else are they trying to accomplish? So that's what we should prize. Hold on to that, and you won't be tempted to aim at anything else. Do not skip this video under any circumstances, not now, not later, because you're different from the rest. You're an exception, and as an exception, you need to act like one. You need to treat yourself differently, and invest your time and attention in things that matter. So, stay focused. And if you can't stop prizing a lot of other things, then you'll never be free, independent, imperturbable, because you'll always be envious and jealous, afraid that people might come and take it all away from you, plotting against those who have them, those things you prize. People who need those things are bound to be a mess, and bound to take out their frustration on the gods. Whereas to respect your own mind, to prize it, will leave you satisfied with your own self, well integrated into your community and in tune with the gods as well, embracing what they allot you and what they ordain. Yes, keep on degrading yourself, soul, but soon your chance at dignity will be gone. Everyone gets one life. Yours is almost used up, and instead of treating yourself with respect, you have entrusted your own happiness to the souls of others. The way people behave, they refuse to admire their contemporaries, the people whose lives they share. No, but to be admired by posterity, people they've never met and never will. That's what they set their hearts on. You might as well be upset at not being a hero to your great-grandfather. To see them from above, the thousands of animal herds, the rituals, the voyages on calm or stormy seas, the different ways we come into the word, share it with one another, and leave it. Consider the lives led once by others, long ago, the lives to be led by others after you, the lives led even now in foreign lands. How many people don't even know your name? How many will soon have forgotten it? How many offer you praise now and then tomorrow perhaps contempt? It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. If a God appeared to us, or a wise human being even, and prohibited us from concealing our thoughts or imagining anything without immediately shouting it out, we wouldn't make it through a single day. That's how much we value other people's opinions instead of our own. You take things you don't control and define them as good or bad, and so of course when the bad things happen, or the good ones don't, you blame the gods and feel hatred for the people responsible, or those you decide to make responsible. Much of our bad behavior stems from trying to apply those criteria. If we limited good and bad to our own actions, we'd have no call to challenge God or to treat other people as enemies. Remember, you shouldn't be surprised that a fig tree produces figs, nor the world what it produces. A good doctor isn't surprised when his patients have fevers, or a helmsman when the wind blows against him. In a sense, people are our proper occupation. Our job is to do them good and put up with them. But when they obstruct our proper tasks, they become irrelevant to us, like sun, wind, animals. Our actions may be impeded by them, but there can be no impeding our intentions or our dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes, the obstacles to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. To feel affection for people even when they make mistakes is uniquely human. You can do it if you simply recognize that they're human too, that they act out of ignorance, against their will, and that you'll both be dead before long. And above all, that they haven't really hurt you. They haven't diminished your ability to choose. When people injure you, ask yourself what good or harm they thought would come of it. If you understand that, you'll feel sympathy rather than outrage or anger. Your sense of good and evil may be the same as theirs, or near it, in which case you have to excuse them, or your sense of good and evil may differ from theirs, in which case they're misguided and deserve your compassion. Is that so hard? If it's in your control, why do you do it? If it's in someone else's, then who are you blaming? Atoms, the gods? Stupid either way. Blame no one, set people straight if you can. If not, just repair the damage, and suppose you can't do that either. Then where does blaming people get you? No pointless actions. Do external things distract you? Then make time for yourself to learn something worthwhile. Stop letting yourself be pulled in all directions. But make sure you guard against the other kind of confusion. People who labor all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse toward are wasting their time, even when hard at work. Time is a river, a violent current of events glimpsed once and already carried past us, and another follows and is gone. You don't love yourself enough, or you'd love your nature too, and what it demands of you. People who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. They even forget to wash or eat. Do you have less respect for your own nature than the engraver does for engraving, the dancer for the dance, the miser for money, or the social climber for status? When they're really possessed by what they do, they'd rather stop eating and sleeping than give up practicing their arts. Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying to the things that happen to you. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Do what nature demands. Get a move on, if you have it in you, and don't worry whether anyone will give you credit for it. And do so expecting Plato's Republic. Be satisfied with even the smallest progress, and treat the outcome of it all as unimportant. When you lose your temper or even feel irritated, that human life is very short. Before long, all of us will be laid out side by side. How much more damage anger and grief do than the things that cause them? When you start to lose your temper, remember, there's nothing manly about rage. It's courtesy and kindness that define a human being, and a man. That's who possesses strength and nerves and guts, not the angry whiners. To react like that brings you closer to impassivity, and so to strength. Pain is the opposite of strength, and so is anger. Both are things we suffer from and yield to. To be angry at something means you've forgotten that everything that happens is natural, that the responsibility is theirs, not yours, and further, that whatever happens has always happened, and always will, and is happening at this very moment, everywhere, just like this. What links one human being to all humans, not blood or birth, but mind? That it's all how you choose to see things. That the present is all we have to live in, or to lose. It doesn't bother you that you weigh only X or Y pounds and not 300. Why should it bother you have only X or Y years to live and not more? You accept the limits placed on our body. Accept those placed on your time. Don't look down on death, but welcome it. It too is one of the things required by nature, like youth and old age, like growth and maturity, like a new set of teeth, a beard, the first gray hair, like sex and pregnancy and childbirth, like all other physical changes at each stage of life, our dissolution is no different. So this is how a thoughtful person should await death. Not with indifference, not with impatience, not with disdain, but simply viewing it as one of the things that happen to us. How you anticipate the child's emergence from its mother's womb. That's how you should await the hour when your soul will emerge from its compartment. I did not fall into the hands of any sophist, or occupy myself about the investigations of the heavens. These things require gods and fortune. Marcus Aurelius, Book 1. Here, Aurelius reminds himself of the fact that he received good instruction from people who helped him discern the differences between empty or hollow activities and those which actually improve a person's life. A sophist argued pretty much for the sake of winning an argument, rather than seeking the truth of the matter. Similarly, Aurelius considers astrology something of a con job, because a person's fate is determined by forces beyond human understanding. Whatever this is that I am, it is a little flesh and breath, and the ruling part. Marcus Aurelius, Book 2. This statement is something of a recurring reduction of the self to basic essence. The flesh, or the corporeal body, and the breath that supports it, are transient, changeable, and therefore subject to ultimate decay and death. However, the ruling part, or intelligence, is seated in the eternal soul. Aurelius goes back and forth a bit on whether or not the soul has an existence after death, much as he wavers between arguments of the Stoic order of the cosmos versus random occurrences as explained by Epicurean philosophy. Failure to observe. The mind of another has seldom made a man unhappy, but those who do not observe, their own minds must be unhappy. Marcus Aurelius, Book 2. This statement recurs often throughout meditations, as Aurelius catches himself wondering what others think of him, or concerns himself with their opinions. Being pulled about by these thoughts has been identified as a constant source of distress that Aurelius decides he can certainly do without, especially when it comes to the self-confidence of decision-making a warrior emperor must practice. Instead, he resolves to study carefully his own motivations and thinking to attain at least a measure of satisfaction. For the lot that is assigned to each man is carried along with him and carries him along with it. Marcus Aurelius, Book 3. This statement can be considered in a linear relationship of reasoning with Aurelius's ideas on mutually defining and supporting conditions. If a man will attend to what he has been given to do with a sincere sense of duty toward his community, the process of carrying out that duty will also serve him every bit as much as the community. Every man lives only in the present, which is an invisible point, and all the rest of his life is either past or uncertain. Marcus Aurelius, Book 3. Living only in the present is the main defense Aurelius identifies as a balanced state of tranquility, undisturbed by extremes of pleasure or pain. The present is essentially all a person has, and it does not benefit him to dwell on past mistakes or accomplishments, or to fret over fears of what may come in the future. In this instance, Aurelius comes closest to an Epicurean point of view. Tranquility is nothing else than the good ordering of the mind. Marcus Aurelius, Book 4. The author here specifically makes a distinction between tranquility, or peace of mind, as a continuously sustainable state in opposition to happiness, which is not sustainable because pain and suffering define it. The universe is transformation. Life is opinion. Marcus Aurelius, Book 4. This comment is one way Aurelius has of running around to the other side of the table, from his Stoic base to take a distinctly opposing and refreshing view supported by Epicureans. While Stoics employed skepticism, an element of doubt that spurs investigation and inquiry, and cynicism, to live by the bare necessities of life only in pursuit of virtue, Epicureans would ask, "What for? It's all in your own head. Nothing is permanent, not even the random, disorganized universe." It expresses the possibility that maybe it isn't all an organized system after all, in which case Aurelius reminds himself the ultimate answer is not his to know. Only by doing his best will he live nobly and meaningfully. Soon, very soon, you will be ashes or a skeleton, and either a name or not even a name. Marcus Aurelius, Book 5. As a soldier and emperor on the battlefield, Aurelius encountered more than his share of images of death, decay, and corruption of the perishable and limited human body. By extension, a person's name also fades away over time, even the names of emperors. Aurelius reminds himself that he is ultimately accountable to no one but himself. The you, throughout Meditations, is Aurelius addressing himself. Let court and philosophy be stepmother and mother to you, whom you meet in court appears tolerable to you, and you appear tolerable in court. Marcus Aurelius, Book 6. While the public and private lives of the emperor appear to be different, they are related in the same way as a mother and a stepmother might be. Aurelius loved philosophy, but here he reminds himself that he also has to act effectively in public to the good of his empire, even if it doesn't hold his heart. By putting on a good face, he is able to fulfill his duties both to his private and his public self. Remember that to change your opinion and to follow him who corrects your error is as consistent with freedom as it is to persist in your error. Marcus Aurelius, Book 8. A note of humility sets in here. Aurelius is reminding himself that nobody is right all the time. He accepts the notion that someone else, regardless of status, even a laborer or slave, might have something useful to offer. All people are on the journey of life together, and not every encounter is designed to derail efforts to improve. Speak both in the Senate and to every man, whoever he may be, appropriately, without affectation. Use plain discourse. Marcus Aurelius, Book 8. Aurelius counted himself fortunate to have avoided the elaborations of speech for its own sake, to the awe and admiration of others. He considered such practice vain, because to do so was to look down on listeners as lesser beings who couldn't possibly understand. As commander of military forces during long foreign campaigns, his success depended upon quick and concise communication. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. Marcus Aurelius, Book 8. The idea here is on par with, as a man thinks, so it is true. The reminder is that pain and its opposite, pleasure, have nothing to do with a particular condition, but rather how an individual responds to it. His references to many of the philosophers he admired are examples of utter indifference to both luxuries and want, so long as possession of one's own self is firmly in hand. Do not despise death, but be well content with it, since this, too, is one of those things that nature wills. Marcus Aurelius, Book 9. There are many constant reminders of the presence of death implicit in every moment of a person's life. Aurelius gives many examples of how death eventually brings down the mightiest of men, and even those who remember and mourn them also turn to ashes in the end. Since death comes to all who live, Aurelius tells himself to neither look forward to it, nor attempt to avoid its natural progression. For this is something like what gardeners mean when they say it grows with the rest of the tree, but that it is not of one mind with it. Marcus Aurelius, Book 11. This comment suggests a discernment of the difference between appearances and reality. A branch grafted onto a tree may look like it belongs there, but it is not the same as a branch that has grown naturally from that tree. In a similar manner, men may act with the appearance of virtue while actually working for their own benefit, a common enough occurrence in political life, practice that also wherein you have no expectation of success. Marcus Aurelius, Book 12. This idea also reflects upon the habit of remaining untroubled by either praise or condemnation. The point is to have confidence in actions taken in order to be faithful to the self. Aurelius reminds himself here that any expectation of good or ill stemming from his efforts sets him up for being attached to the gratification of his own accomplishments, arrogance, and a corresponding lack of self-confidence attached to failure. As with pleasure and pain, the effort is to neither avoid nor seek out, but remain constantly balanced between extremes. Begin the morning by saying to thyself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial. All these things happen to them by reason of their ignorance of what is good and evil. But I who have seen the nature of the good that it is beautiful, and of the bad that it is ugly, and the nature of him who does wrong, that it is akin to me, not only of the same blood or seed, but that it participates in the same intelligence and the same portion of the divinity, I can neither be injured by any of them, for no one can fix on me what is ugly, nor can I be angry with my kinsman, nor hate him, for we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another then is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be vexed and to turn away. Whatever this is that I am, it is a little flesh and breath and the ruling part. Throw away thy books, no longer distract thyself, it is not allowed, but as if thou wast now dying, despise the flesh. It is blood and bones and a network, a contexture of nerves, veins, and arteries. See the breath also, what kind of a thing it is, air and not always the same, but every moment sent out and again sucked in. The third, then, is the ruling part. Consider thus, thou art an old man. No longer let this be a slave, no longer be pulled by the strings like a puppet to unsocial movements, no longer either be dissatisfied with thy present lot, or shrink from the future. All that is from the gods is full of providence. That which is from fortune is not separated from nature, or without an interweaving and involution with the things which are ordered by providence. From thence all things flow, and there is besides necessity, and that which is for the advantage of the whole universe, of which thou art a part. But that is good for every part of nature which the nature of the whole brings, and what serves to maintain this nature. Now the universe is preserved, as by the changes of the elements, so by the changes of things compounded of the elements. Let these principles be enough for thee, let them always be fixed opinions, but cast away the thirst after books, that thou mayest not die murmuring, but cheerfully, truly, and from thy heart, thankful to the gods. How long thou hast been putting off these things, and how often thou hast received an opportunity from the gods, and yet dost not use it. Thou must now at last perceive of what universe thou art a part, and of what administrator of the universe thy existence is an efflux, and that a limit of time is fixed for thee, which if thou dost not use for clearing away the clouds from thy mind, every moment think steadily as a Roman and a man to do what thou hast in hand, with perfect and simple dignity and feeling of affection and freedom and justice, and to give thyself relief from all other thoughts. And thou wilt give thyself relief if thou doest every act of thy life as if it were the last, laying aside all carelessness and passionate aversion from the commands of reason, and all hypocrisy and self-love, and discontent with the portion which has been given to thee. Thou seest how few the things are, the which if a man lays hold of, he is able to live a life which flows in quiet, and is like the existence of the gods, for the gods on their part will require nothing more from him who observes these things. Thank for watching.